What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to Down to Earth show, man, on the big thing. So it is UAP Tuesday here, and we are talking about a lot of things that went down this week. Holy moly, I mean, things that just went down in the last 24 hours. But the main thing we really got to dive into is this stuff that happened, I think, at the end of last week when it came to the interview that Stephen Greenstreet did with Kirpatrick. And everybody said, well, we know what this is going to be. This is going to be an AARO fluff piece and say, hey, look how wonderful AARO is. They said nothing to see here. And, Kirpatrick said what he said, and he's telling the truth. So leave him alone, guys. And that was a small portion of it. It was. I mean, I'm not going to say the whole thing wasn't a... Greenstreet's not a... He's a guy that wants to say, but he didn't do that totally. I gave him credit on Down to Earth, and I'll give him credit here. He pressed on Kirpatrick a few different times, and he asked him specifically about claims that Brandon Fugel made about the fact that in 2018, Fugel said that he went to do a presentation regarding SkinWalker Ranch, and that there were a bunch of people there, and leading the table in this meeting was Sean Kirpatrick. And Kirpatrick, a couple times during the interview, was like, I don't think that happened. I'm not sure, or whatever. And then he, in an email exchange, said, no. I definitely wasn't 2018 because I was in Colorado, and I don't ever remember even meeting Fugel, so that wasn't me. It didn't happen. Fugel said, wait, what? This is what he said? He's like, are you trying to ruin this guy's credibility? What are you talking about? He said, that's what he said? Then Fugel says, okay, how about this? And shows a picture of a meeting that he had in 2018, SkinWalker Ranch all over the thing. And who's sitting there? Sean Kirpatrick. So has there been a response to that? No. No, there hasn't. There's been other things that have led up since. Some stuff about Lou Elizondo and some other reports that looks like Lou might have been telling the truth from the people who are saying, wait a minute, he wasn't part of that program. That's BS. A lot of the bunkers have said that. Well, there's a new document that says, no, it looks like he was telling the truth. And one of the biggest drops over the last 24 hours is the fact that we know that David Grush is not going to be talking at this conference anymore, the SALT conference. Carl Nell is. It was announced that Carl Nell will indeed be talking. It looks like he's taking that place. Now, he's another guy that they're waiting for him to be the next whistleblower, the next guy to really start talking maybe at these hearings. Is this the precursor? What's he going to say at the conference? So this is a good replacement because this is a guy that everyone said, well, this guy should be the next guy talking to really get things moving. This is big news. So all of that and more. And if you like listening to this show on audio form, well, then you should go to the Down to Earth podcast feed. That's where you find this every Tuesday. If not, you comment here, you hit like, you hit subscribe. For everybody who comes in and finds these shows, hit subscribe right away. Why? Well, because it's free. That's the first thing. Anything, it's free. The second is because it's this conversation that needs to keep happening. And as we keep growing, that's what it is. We need you guys to be here each and every week so you know. Hit the notification, hit the like button, comment, get the conversation going. That's how it keeps getting back in the feed. The algorithm will say no. There's other things for you to watch, and you don't comment enough, and you don't click like, and you don't subscribe. I'm not going to put this in your feed, and then you miss the conversation. But that's what we're talking about here today, man. It's myself. It's Mark Riley. Let's do it. Yeah, like the music's, you can't hear it anymore, right? I can't hear you. Just give me a thumbs up. Can you hear it or no? You can hear it? You can't hear it. Okay, good. All right. Let's do that then. It's fucking weird. All right. What's going on, everybody? Welcome back. It is UAP Tuesday, Down to Earth, on the big thing with Kristian Harloff. That's a mouthful. It is myself, Kristian Harloff, and of course, joined by the one and only Mark Yodas Riley. Hello, Mark. How are you?
Hello, Kristian. I'm fine.
Good. Nice to hear from you. I'm glad that you're doing good.
Good being here, as always.
As always. Yeah, I mean, it's we're going to be broken record until the day we're done doing this show, but it's like, it's never a lack of information.
No.
Yeah.
So it's always just a steady stream.
Steady stream indeed. And like there's so much going on. And some of these stories I covered on the Down to Earth channel last week, but it's like an ongoing saga. I can cover a portion of it and think, oh, that's the story. But the story doesn't ever stop, really. It just keeps on kind of moving forward. And I think that I want to go through, just in case people didn't follow the story from, I think Friday is when I posted it. I'm going to show the clip out of the thing that I showed. And then kind of give a brief history on it, and then dive into other things that I found out and started to pay attention to. So let's get to how this thing all started, right? It's like, the first part of it is, that AARO report comes out a few months back that seemed to take the wind out of the sails of everybody in this community, because they were like, look, we did all the investigating that we could. The DOD and AARO find no evidence of NHI and nothing for us to think that this is anything except, other drones or balloons or other craft from other countries, maybe. But there's no concrete evidence. And everyone went, okay, it looks like that's what the mainstream people who are following go, oh, yeah, I saw that report that says that, and I guess this is where this ends. And Sean Kirpatrick was one of those people with all the claims, and remember, he did that big press conference. We covered Sean Kirpatrick so many times over on this thing, because you don't know. You say over and over again, he doesn't seem authentic. He doesn't seem like he's telling the truth. But then you give that sliver in your mind, goes, I don't know, maybe, but it just doesn't seem like he's telling the truth.
No.
So Stephen Greenstreet has him on the show, and Greenstreet, who was a big believer at one point, he did that show for a long time, and then he had his beef with Lou Elizondo and other things, and he just went a total 180 and was more of the debunker. I mean, literally says on his thing, debunking UFO stuff from my basement or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And so when he normally is out there, it's to say, cut it out, UFO believers. I'll tell you why. This is it. And I said this on Friday, man. I gave him credit because I was like, well, look, it's like, to me, when you listen to people we'll use this space as an example. People who just believe and want to believe, they don't take any of the, well, wait, hold on. That could be BS. You got to listen to it. Because there's tons of people who report on everything is true and everything is aliens and everything is this and everything's a UFO and it's just simply not the case. And the flip side of that is you get the people who are just going, no, it absolutely isn't. You guys you just want to be in a science fiction movie, and I'm going to tell you why. No. And that's what Greenstreet comes off to me sometimes, but not in this interview. This clip, let me play this clip. It's a long clip. It's a clip from his show, and I'll put a link to his full interview with Kirpatrick in the link to this video. But here's the clip.
The second moment comes when I asked Kirkpatrick if he had a previous history working with UFOs, or if he had any previous associations with members of this core group of true believers. Before AARO, did you have any interest at all in UFOs?
Not beyond the occasional movie.
Okay. Before AARO, did you perform any duties regarding UFOs or paranormal phenomena?
No.
Did you attend a 2018 Senate Armed Services Committee briefing on SkinWalker Ranch? I asked him this question because in a previous report of mine, I revealed that in 2018, Brandon Fugel, the owner of SkinWalker Ranch, went to Washington, D.C., and gave a briefing to multiple Pentagon officials about the spooky stuff at the ranch. At the briefing were some of the members of this group. Fugel told me Kirkpatrick was not only there, but was leading the briefing about SkinWalker Ranch. Did you attend a 2018 Senate Armed Services Committee briefing on SkinWalker Ranch?
No, I attended a briefing at the request of the Senate Armed Services Committee on what was at that time associated with the ATIP OSAP research that was going as an independent outside reviewer, and I gave them my opinions at that time.
Who invited you to that briefing?
It was one of the staffers.
Okay,
Just-
one of the staffers on SASC.
Right.
Got it. And you're saying that this was like an offset of OSAP ATIP?
That's my understanding at the time, was it was a spin out of those programs.
In 2018. Wow. Okay.
So those
Brandon-
programs were ended. The research by these independent people, because this was not an official government briefing. This was a briefing by people that were not associated with the government. So,
Okay, so this briefing was not an official DoD Pentagon briefing.
oh, absolutely not.
Okay. Brandon Fugel, the owner of SkinWalker Ranch, says you, quote, led that briefing in 2018 and claims you said you were, quote, already fully aware of the reality of UFO phenomena. Is that accurate?
I wasn't leading anything. I had another job at the time, and I was brought in as an independent, objective reviewer of what the SASC was being told.
Okay. Because this offered a little bit of a curveball in my reporting because I did a whole deep dive on SkinWalker Ranch. Brandon Fugel told me about the briefing, said, you were there. And he said that, Kirkpatrick said that UFOs are real in this briefing. And when I reported that, I think the UFO community at the time was like, oh, Kirkpatrick's a UFO guy because Fugel said so. And then when your report came out, they're like, wait, what the hell?
Yeah, no, Kirkpatrick did not say aliens were real.
Or UFOs were real, that the reality, quote, the reality of UFO phenomena is real.
No, I never said that.
Before AARO, did you have any association with any of these folks, any of the people in this core group of believers?
No.
So, like, when you went to that briefing in 2018 where you said OSAP ATIP folks were there, you didn't know any of those people?
Not at the time.
Okay.
Not that I remember. I think I met all the people associated with this all at that time. Was probably around the first that I'd ever met them.
Okay, so he admits that he was at this unofficial 2018 SkinWalker Ranch briefing, but only on invitation and only as an independent, objective reviewer. Okay? But seriously, what was he even doing there? How can he say that he had no interest or duties regarding UFOs before 2022 if he's attending briefings in 2018 about one of the most famous UFO spots on planet Earth? I could have pushed him more on this, but time was ticking and I wanted to cover more topics. I emailed Kirkpatrick some follow-up questions, and he said this: I ended up at that briefing because a congressional staffer asked me to attend as an objective third-party scientist to listen to the presentation. I did not know it was about SkinWalker Ranch until later. I don't recall it being referenced by that name during the briefing. He doesn't recall SkinWalker Ranch even being referenced? I replied by sending Kirkpatrick this PowerPoint presentation that Brandon Fugel claims he presented at the briefing. SkinWalker Ranch is all over it, and it's all about SkinWalker Ranch. Kirkpatrick replied, that's not the briefing I recall seeing. The briefing I saw was less polished. Come to think about it, I don't believe it was 2018 that I attended a briefing on the Hill. I believe it would have been 2017. In 2018, I was stationed in Colorado. I don't recall ever meeting Fugel. Maybe he's confusing the two meetings. So I reached out to Brandon Fugel about Kirkpatrick's comments. Fugel responded, are you trying to get Kirkpatrick in trouble and destroy his credibility? You better be careful with what you report. To which I replied, no, I interviewed him and brought up the 2018 Senate Armed Services Committee briefing you had told me about. I included his response below and would like to give you an opportunity to respond or clarify. Fugel responded, he, meaning Kirkpatrick, was at that meeting on April 19th, 2018. I gave you an accurate account of the meeting and have video, photos, and witnesses. I then asked Fugel if he could provide any of those videos, photos, or witnesses. Fugel did not respond at the time of this video's publishing. This is all very confusing, and at this point, I simply don't know who to believe.
All right, Riley, spicy to say the least. And that
I
didn't,
like it.
But
I like it.
That was the beginning.
Yeah.
That was
Ask me if I was at a super secret meeting on SkinWalker Ranch in 2018.
right. Hey, Riley, were you at a meeting, a secret meeting in 2018 about SkinWalker Ranch?
Hmm?
Right. What? So, I mean, this episode that we're doing here alone. I mean, I know we have a couple of stories, but we really it could be this whole episode because this is the beginning. This is the beginning of this story that we're talking about here, and everything you said. Like and once again, I mean, I know people have their opinions, and I happen to have my own opinion on Green Street. It was great reporting.
Yeah,
great reporting. It was he pressed him, he went after him, he kept asking me, but he wasn't being, gotcha. He's like, well, hold on, wait a minute. Did you have any involvement with UFOs before that? And he said no. He said, well then, but I was asked to be there. Well, why were you asked to be there? If you had no involvement in UFOs, why were you there?
A staffer.
But why would a staffer ask you? But wouldn't, even if he asked you to go, wouldn't the answer to my previous question have been yes? I had an interest in it because they asked me to go. So I guess I met those people there and Fugle was there, but he says Fugle wasn't even there. He's like, oh, and I don't think it was Skinwalker Ranch because it wasn't on the presentation. It's like this presentation with Skinwalker Ranch on every page, and he's like, oh, well, the one I saw wasn't as polished, and I don't even think he was there. Because maybe you got the meetings confused. It's like,
it's just a little. It's
a little. Let's talk about some habits, because you guys know you got some habits, and there's nothing better than beating a bad habit with a good habit. And we've talked about Fume before. You guys know we've talked about Fume. We've had Fume on, and we're glad that they are back. It's great. And Mark Riley is the one who's really been talking this thing up. And I can't wait for him to talk about it even more so on the show when he's on for UAP. And he's just talking about how flavorful it was, better than he thought. It feels very fresh. And it's like a refreshing herbal tea, but if it was vapor. You can look at like sticky soda. It's got it's really good. It's well weighted. It's perfectly balanced. It's extremely fun to fidget with. And it really, look at the wood itself. It's great. You can start the year off right with the good habit by going to tryfume.com/bigthing and getting the journey pack today. Fume is giving listeners to the show 10% off when they use that code BIGTHING to help make starting the good habit much easier, because you get it. Instead of bad, Fume is good. It's a habit that you're free to enjoy, and it makes replacing your bad habit easy. It comes with adjustable airflow dial, and it's designed with movable parts. It's great. They use flavored air instead of vapor. Fume is completely natural, by the way, instead of electronics. And this is the reason why I decided. People are like, well, why would you get involved with something like this? Why? Because they don't use harmful chemicals. They use delicious flavors. And that's why I got involved. Fume works. They're great. So thank you again to Fume for sponsoring the show. And this is awesome too, by the way. I don't know if you know about this. They just sent me this one. The perfect jean. I'm always struggling for good jeans, because if you're tired of your classic rough and rigid jeans, and you know what they do? They crush your balls. They do. Crush your nuts.
I know.
Yeah, because if you're wearing oversized jeans that make you a laughing stock at your office or the bar, that happens all the time. And is your wife or significant other tired of you wearing sweats or khakis because you hate wearing jeans? Well, that's what I love about today's sponsor. It's the perfect jean, and they solved all your denim difficulties. They make great looking, perfect fitting jeans that are comfortable as sweatpants, and they really are. I put these things on, I was like, holy moly, felt like I was wearing sweatpants, and they're awesome. What's the secret of it? It's a special denim fabric that's super soft and has the perfect amount of stretch, so you can squat, do yoga, and just sit around without ever wanting to take them off. I can't even tell you how many times, and I'm not embarrassed to say it because it's the truth about this thing. I can't tell you. I have gone to pick up things for my dog and rip my damn jeans every time. And I'm like, damn it. Doesn't happen in these pants. They make 6 fits. You have skinny to thick, and you have a waist from 26 to 50, length from 26 to 38, big boys, short kings, tall dudes, and the rest. They got you. For a limited time, our listeners will get 15% off their first order plus free shipping. We got to go to theperfectjean.nyc or just Google The Perfect Jean. Use that code BIGTHING, get 15% off. Is that you gotta get these comfortable jeans. And I'm so glad that I learned about them and they sent them to me. It's finally time. Stop crushing your balls.
It's a lot.
That's a lot.
And the pictures and the
Well, we'll get to that.
we'll get to that. The tells, though. I mean, there are. I love watching people. I do.
Yeah.
And I there's a lot of tells. You know, I made the joke. It was, no, I wasn't.
Well, you know what it was also, Riley? It's the fact that because Kirkpatrick ain't doing interviews with a lot, like he ain't gonna do an interview with us. He ain't gonna do an interview with Patrick from Vetted. He's not gonna do an interview with a lot of these other, people that kind of maybe sway more on the believer side. He's gonna
which is I was just gonna say, right?
He's gonna do interviews with people he feels safe with. And he felt safe with Green Street, and Green Street pushed him. And
Green Street just followed.
He followed through.
Good reporting.
It was good reporting.
Yeah, just kind of finds the contradictions.
He said, "Wait a minute."
Asks them the questions.
Yeah, in the same way that people will say, like, if you have someone on that, if like you have David Grush on, and we're both fans of David Grush, and there are a lot of people who are not, who think that he's lying and stuff too. We're not in that boat, but it doesn't mean that if he said something on, at least I feel that me and you would do this, that we had him on the show and he said something, we go, well, wait a minute. In the same way that we had, look, I like Ashton Forbes. Ashton Forbes to me, he sent me a thing the other day. He's like, I love the X-Men '97 series, and he was like, but when he was on the show, there were a couple times I'm like, well, wait a minute. If that happened, then how do you explain that, and why is that? And he had an answer for everything, but we didn't just say to him, oh, okay, that sounds amazing. It's like, no, you challenge people on it, and I think, and Ashton certainly respects that, and he doesn't say, well, you need to believe everything I'm saying. He's like, you make your own opinion on it, but treat people respectfully. And so I think in the same way that people who are admire or friends with people can give people a pass and not challenge them on it, Green Street didn't do that. And he went after him on this, and this is the same reporter that has that AARO report pinned to his tweet. It's like, see, he hasn't become a believer over it. And I think it's even more so on the opposite. But he wanted to do the respectful thing, and he did, or I should say, professional thing, and he did, and he got Kirkpatrick Kirkpatrick felt safe. And as you said, with the tells, man, he's just like, well, I met him this time. No, we didn't have dinner together. You didn't? No, we had dinner. We didn't have breakfast. You did have breakfast? No, we had breakfast. We didn't have eggs, but you did have eggs. Oh, we had eggs. They just weren't scrambled. It's like it's like that's what it seemed like, right?
Yeah, it absolutely seems like that. And the naked eye, you could look at this and go, there's something off here. With this whole situation with Kirkpatrick, there is a lot of inconsistencies and what some would call contradictions. So I think Green Street is going down that rabbit hole, doing the reporting, because he did a whole video series on SkinWalker Ranch, and there is a lot there that is hard to believe, maybe, but just in the facts of just you were there, right? No, that was a staffer. There's something fishy, and it becomes the more and more.
Well, he did say he was there at one point. He said he was there, but he said no, it was a staffer that invited me. And but at first he said no, I don't believe so. He's like, well, I went to this one thing that was I was invited by a staffer as kind of like a consultant, but I wasn't leading anything. And then I think what it seems like what happened was he went, oh man, like that was too close. I can't talk about that. And in his head he's going, there's no proof of that went down. So I'll just write to Green Street back. I'm like, no. I wasn't at that particular thing you sent. That was not what I saw. You know what? Come to think of it, in 2018, I wasn't even working. I was working at a different job. I was in Colorado at that point. I don't even remember at this point. I don't remember Fugel. And I'll tell you what, I think he might have actually messed up the meetings because I wasn't there. And that's probably whoever's you remember that when he was doing that PR tour, that bizarre PR tour towards the end of the year, and they talked about like that the woman that was like his handler, like making like over his shoulder saying, hey, maybe she was like, what did you say to him? You said what? Listen, just say you weren't there. You're in Colorado. You were in college. There's no proof of that. Fugel doesn't have any of that stuff, and if he did, he's not going. There's nothing. He doesn't have anything. He can just say all day long that was, and we just say he messed up the meeting, and go ahead.
Sure.
That's what it seems like.
It's I'm sorry, it's fishy. It's all just fishy, and there's pictures and there's images and there's.
Well, wait. Save that. Let's just get to that because
it's hard not to just go to it.
You're getting antsy. All right. Here it is. So Fugel did respond after that because as Green Street said, Fugel's like, "Are you trying to ruin this guy's rep? I've got pictures, I got videos." And Green Street said, "We'll send them," and he didn't until. So Fugel responds to that post that I just showed you guys. It was tweeted out by Green Street, and Fugel says, "I'm telling the truth. On April 19th, 2018, my team from SkinWalker Ranch was asked to provide a confidential briefing in Washington, D.C. to the U.S. Senate Select Committee on Intelligence and United States Armed Service Committee. Sean Kirpatrick was at the head of the table, and 3 pictures were included. Here's the first. All right, the first one is the actual cover, I believe, to the confidential briefing itself, and it says SkinWalker Ranch right on the title. So it wasn't like, I don't know if that was brought up. Well, I mean, what do you think it was about? But I don't know. Maybe it wasn't there. So then here is, it looks, there's Fugel, and he's standing outside, and it's his team, and they're ready to go in. And the final picture, the one that set the internet on fire. Here's the briefing with everybody in the room. And it looks like Lukatsky's there. And who's Lukatsky sitting next to? That ain't Weselton from Frozen. That's Sean Kirpatrick, guys. He's sitting right there, and he's looking at the camera. He's the only guy looking at the picture of the guy who's taking the picture. Like, please don't post this, and please don't take this picture and post it in 6 years from now.
Yeah,
and that is 2018, and he looks like he's looks like he's in a position where, like, to me, if he wasn't a big part of that meeting, he'd be sitting farther back. He's pretty close, and enough to where you look at where Fugel is. He's almost he's directly like eye to eye. So I don't remember meeting him. This is a lie, brother. It's like, I mean,
that's why it's hard to talk around. You know, it's like you see that first interview, then you see this. It's you want to go right to this.
Yeah.
From that interview. Look, I can't. You know, he has his motivations. Obviously, we don't know everything. We don't know what he's thinking. We don't know what he's
been told to do.
What he's been told to do. Thank you. But this is out there. I don't think maybe he had the foresight. I mean, I think he was definitely looking at the cameraman going, "Don't take this picture." You know,
yeah.
I need to cover my tracks. But I mean, we are now in this age of technology, and everybody's got a phone in their pocket that's a camera, that's a video. It's like this stuff kind of gets out.
Yeah, but at that point, Riley, at that point, there's no, you know, I need to cover my tracks because he's not the head of AARO at that point.
Right, but and also at that point, there isn't the influx of this kind of the community now that we have so much to go on. This was now starting to come. 2017, those videos dropped. You know, we're at Collider Live. We're watching this, going, "What's going on?" That was the start of it all. The snowball rolling down the mountain. It's huge now. Right here, it's about, you know, a volleyball size.
Right, but you know, when you look, but here's the thing that really, there's so much to this. Because there's so much to the follow-up questions because of this picture. Because I automatically say, all right, so we know that he was there. He said he doesn't remember being there. And no, I wasn't there because of 2018 I wasn't there. Well, 2018, Fugel disputes that, obviously shows that it was 2018. It did happen. Kirpatrick was there. So it seems that's not like oh yeah, that's right. I remember being there now. You can't say that because you look like you've been caught in a lie. So if I'm confident enough to say it looks like he was lying. Are you confident enough of saying that?
I would say so, yeah.
Okay. So we're both confident enough to say it looks like a lie. Whatever the reason was, it looks like it was a lie. So now my follow-up question has to be, what else was he lying about? Because if this was a lie to protect something, well, how do we know a lot of that AARO report wasn't a lie? When he says, no, we've never found anything that shows any proof of UFO, NHI, whatever it might be. How do I know he's not lying now? Because he's already proven to me that he's no problem lying about this, because you can't have a meet if he didn't remember meeting Fugel, he's got to go to the doctor. Because if someone's doing a presentation for that long on SkinWalker Ranch, which you and I would know, if you and I, who don't have that job, that if we sat at a conference for half an hour, 45 minutes, 2 hours, listening to the guy who owns SkinWalker Ranch talk about SkinWalker Ranch, we'd remember it.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
So what's he lying about? What else is he lying about?
A lot.
Yeah?
I would say a lot. Yes. I think that, your reasoning is solid. I mean, look, if you're not going to trust somebody that might be caught in a lie like this, but I mean, it's not surprising to me, because there are certain things that he wants to hold back. I don't know why. He's contradicting himself, but this just across the board, when it comes to people in power, politicians, they're always lying. That's what it feels like.
It feels that way, yeah.
Sure. Especially like this, stuff like this. But the question is why? Why? Like, what is he trying to hide? Why can't there be this? Every show, we're just more disclosure, please. More disclosure, please. So this is a part of that disclosure. What are you guys meeting about? Now, if it's all highly confidential, well, we have people going out there and proving that he was there. So kind of spill the beans, please. Then why were you there? I don't like UFOs, only in my science fiction movies. Well, okay, fine. It just stinks.
Yeah.
And I just want more information. We say this every freaking time.
Yeah, but this is different.
More information.
This is way different, because this is showing the guy who was running AARO and still out there being one of their major mouthpieces, even though he's not part of it anymore. Still trying to put a big squad. Remember, this is the guy
that's
who.
The question, why?
Right, and this is the guy that right after David Grush comes out, he posts his LinkedIn thing to say no. He tried to discredit. The other thing we talked about this, where he that it was shown that he was trying to discredit Grush from saying, we actually asked Grush this, and I did have access to this. And it's like, you can't take anything this guy says serious anymore. Like, now that he's been proven to at least lie about this, it's like, even if he was telling the truth about other things, which he very well might have been telling the truth about some things, I don't know what, but maybe he was. How do I take him serious now when he's been proven to have been at this meeting? And the other thing, something that you just said, by the way, which was true and accurate, up until Friday when this report came out, I had no interest in ever checking out an episode of SkinWalker Ranch. I had no, and every time someone brought that up, and even when I tell people outside of this whole thing, they know about that show. It's on History Channel. They know these things, and they go, "Oh yeah, that thing, right? You're not into that whole thing, right?" I'm like, I've never seen an episode. I know nothing about it. I don't know. I don't know anything about it. This made me watch 2 episodes. I watched 2 episodes of the show because of this, because it made me say, well, wait a minute. This just absolutely showed that they were brought in to have this conversation because the government took it serious enough.
Yes.
That they brought in this guy, because it's one thing. So we knew Harry Reid had an interest in it, and he was, asking questions and those types of things. So they were just kind of curious, but they had to take it serious enough that if this guy's sitting in the meeting, who they eventually are going to lead AARO with, well, then they took it serious enough to do a full-on presentation with. So I started watching it, and there's a lot of it that it's made for television. There's no doubt about it. There's some people that are on that show that I'm like, that I don't know why that person's on this show. But it doesn't take away the validity of what might be going on in that in general there, because they're sniffing around. They're sniffing around. Yeah. And so I will say this. I reached out to Brandon Fugel, by the way, and I tweeted at him, why not, right? To say, like, let's see if he responds. He did respond. And he said that he would do an interview. So we're talking right now, and the goal is to try to get him on within the next week. That's the goal.
That's fantastic.
So,
all this SkinWalker Ranch stuff. Before you and I were doing this, I watched Green Street's breakdown of SkinWalker Ranch, and something really stands out to me is that with all of this, is that there's little bits of truth within bigger kind of tall tales.
yeah.
And that breakdown really started focusing on like the kind of the supernatural element of like werewolves and ghosts and demons and stuff, with little mentions of UFO, right?
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I found was interesting, because that's where most people would kind of go to. Like, there was something in the breakdown in those Green Street videos where, you know, somebody saw a werewolf, and then that was kind of tied to some sort of video game. Now I'm butchering because it's been over a year since I've seen those videos. But that's what my main point is that there can be these truths that are just buried beneath, not lies per se, but like
exaggerations.
Exaggeration, stuff that people will just kind of look at more because it's so outlandish. When you're talking supernatural and you're talking about werewolves, you know, that kind of...
Yeah, but when you look at it, I actually watched, because I had heard that as well, right?
Right.
But I watched the episode. And I'm only 2 episodes into the series so far, but it's a little, even that report of the exaggeration of what the werewolf itself is, it's like it's tied back to the natives that lived on the land years and years and years and years prior, to which there were rival factions that they used to be in sync with one another, and then they started feuding together, and then one of the tribes hexed the other tribe and cursed them with cursed this ranch. This is the mythology, right? And that inside of this said that the skinwalkers would walk among them, and that there were these, you know, and there were reports throughout the years that there were these large wolves and all that type of stuff, you know, whatever. It's not, that's the mythos that comes with it. Now, I haven't seen any episodes to where anybody's like, "Oh my God, I got chased around by a big wolf." I haven't seen any of that stuff. What is fascinating to me was that there's some kind of, and even when we talked to Jesse Michaels, who said he had some kind of circumstance that happened to him there when
that was terrifying. That was what he said happened.
Yeah, and so when he talked about that stuff, that there's like, when you watch the first 2 episodes, like there's gnarly stuff that's going on there, like to where there's one guy who's working. He was working there prior. He talked about how for one reason or another, something started to grow in the back of his head, and he had to go to the hospital, and it was like almost life-threatening. Doctors couldn't explain what the hell was happening, right? So the episode that I am on is that this same guy they're looking at this thing, and this energy thing is happening. They can only see it in infrared, and the same guy, the thing happens to him again. Now, I don't know. I haven't watched past that. I don't know what happens, but I'm not telling you whether any of this stuff is whatever the hell you want to put it together. There's particularly, they tie it back to potential nuclear energy that was going there. There's something on that ranch in general. That's my overall point, that there's something there that intrigued the government to say, come on in, present this, and talk to everybody here, and then talk to this guy. And then this guy, 6 years later, goes, "I don't think I was there." Like, you were, and you were there because it was important enough that, you know, this thing's keeps getting passed over from billionaire to billionaire. You've got Bigelow had it, he sold it now, and now Fugel has it, right? Fugel's been doing all the investigation. He brings Travis Taylor, and he does all these different things, and he's getting the name out there. And before Fugel, they didn't even let cameras and stuff on the ranch. But it's enough that, like I said, I had no interest in it. I didn't know. I thought it was just for television purposes. In the same way that I told you, I never used to watch the ancient alien stuff and all that. I never really watched it.
I didn't watch that either. Yeah.
No, because to me it was just like, oh, that's just like the what ifs, and okay, that could be a lot of fun, and that to me is more the sci-fi stuff. When you say that somebody's not, if you say, "No, I'm not at a meeting," and you ran AARO, and then a reporter says, "Well, wait a minute, this guy says you were," and you still say, "No, I wasn't," and then that guy goes, "No, here's a picture of why I was," you've just given validity to that show to me. You've given validity to it, because you made me go, oh, well, if it was enough for the people who had to A, take a meeting on it, B, lie about it, I'll check it out and see what it is.
Yeah, this all goes to, I mean, my main thing with all of this is concrete evidence. It gives me a little morsel of something, like a breadcrumb found in the forest as we're searching for a way out. And you know, this is concrete fact. This is something where you can go, that's him. Okay, why are you saying this?
Right.
The
Good point.
videos that
Good
were
point.
released New York Times 2017's the Go Fast, the Tic Tac, all of that. That's something, right? That's something that I can hang my hat on. And then all of this kind of talking around it and senators, Schumer, whoever it may be, trying to get some more disclosure, get in front of people. This is all concrete stuff that I can get behind. Because you even said it yourself when you're looking at and you hear the mythology. You lost me. I don't know if everybody saw that. You start talking about like the dueling tribes that are fighting each other. I started going, Ancient Aliens, SkinWalker Ranch. That's made for television for me, where I can't hang my hat on that.
But that's actually, the
It's
tribes,
fun and interesting
but
and sci-fi.
the tribes, the tribes themselves, like that's all like fact. Those two tribes,
sure,
like,
I have no doubt.
But the idea of that they cursed them, and because they cursed them, that there's skinwalkers running around and people and shapeshifters, right? Of course.
Until I see a video of a giant wolf,
right,
standing outside somebody's window, where you can kind of go, okay, and it's not like maybe the Vegas video where it could be a shadow or not. I don't know. That's the kind of, like, I'm seeing physical proof with a Tic Tac or a Go Fast. These something. Bledsoe. We might get to it, but like seeing, like, here it is, and what is that? Even if we're seeing and we're commenting on videos where it turns out to be, and I know you don't like talking about it, but like a balloon. But for a minute, we're like, what is that? This is all concrete stuff that I can, again, hang my hat on and gives me something to go on. That's what I want. And this picture gives me, that's SkinWalker Ranch out there on the slide, I'm sure.
On the slide, on every page. On every page of the presentation. It's the whole It wasn't like, oh, and by the way, this is so-and-so from SkinWalker Ranch. Or there was a flyby by SkinWalker Ranch. All right, now let's talk about, the sneakers I bought last week. And you report on the sneakers, and you only mentioned Skywalker Ranch once. It's like, no, the presentation was about Skywalker Ranch. So, I mean, we're just going to rehash
SkinWalker Ranch. I would love Skywalker Ranch.
I said, no, SkinWalker Ranch. Did I say Skywalker? SkinWalker Ranch. But yeah, and so anyway...
I'm with you. It is really, really about when you have people that are out there willing to testify. When you have Grush come out and say, "Listen, there are crash UAP, reverse engineering programs, remains of non-human intelligence." He is saying that. That is something I can hang my hat on. I'm going to say it over again. Hang my hat on. These are like things that you can actually like. Well, wait. Somewhat tangible.
Well, allow me to push back on that then, right? Because I believe I believe Grush.
Well,
but a
how credible is he to you?
A naysayer could say, well, wait a minute.
He's lying.
Yeah. And he could say, you can hang your hat on someone who's just saying things. Well, then why can't you hang your hat on what Kirpatrick is saying, minus this, because he got caught lying. But, there's like, you can say, well, I hang my hat on what Mick West says, because Mick West will come out there and say all these different things. I hang my hat on what he says. It's like,
sure.
To me, like, look, I believe David Grush, but it's hard for me to say I hang my hat on anything he does, because like, I haven't seen the full-on proof of it. I've seen proof that this guy was in the meeting. So I believe Brandon Fugel, everything he said about that meeting, because he just showed me proof. I believe that when it comes to, I believe that David Grush is telling the truth on where he worked, what he did, his level, because that can be proven. If you do the research, you'll see the kind of clearance that he had, which kind of brings us to our next topic.
That's my point. When you have the individual who had the clearance he had, where he came from, who he worked for, the clearances, the part, you know what I mean?
Right.
That's why I can hang my hat on that guy, and maybe not Mick West, because I'm like, well, have you been involved in like a classified program? Have you worked for the government? Yes, Kirkpatrick, I could do the same thing, but now I have a photo that's saying something different, that he's saying one thing, so there's something fishy. Going back to your original point, it's like, what else is he lying about if this is coming in? You know what I mean? It's all about context and what the circumstances are.
Yes, absolutely. And I think that it leads into more credibility for other people who've been challenged, and we'll get into that in just a minute. Let's talk about our sponsors today, AG1. I have to have a supplement that has high quality, and that is why for the last 2.5, 3 years now, I've been drinking AG1. Unlike many supplement brands, AG1 conducts relentless testing to set the standard for purity and potency. It's because quality for AG1, it's not a buzzword. It's a commitment, and it is backed by expert-led scientific research, high-quality ingredients, industry-leading manufacturing, and rigorous testing. Each step of the process, AG1 goes above and beyond industry standards. I know that. I can definitely trust every time and every scoop that is AG1. They obsess over product quality. They obsess over it. That's great. The standards of manufacturing partners and sustainable practices is all super important to them. I take care of my health, and the reason why is because it shouldn't be complicated, and AG1 simplifies this by making it so there aren't a million different pills and capsules to keep track of. Just one scoop of AG1, you mix it in water every day. The ingredients are heavily researched for efficiency and quality, and I love that every scoop also includes vitamin C and zinc to support my immune health. Partner with AG1 for so long because they make such a high-quality product that I genuinely look forward to drinking every day. So if you want to replace your multivitamin and more, start with AG1. Try AG1. You get a free 1-year supply of vitamin D3 and K2 and 5 free AG1 travel packs with your first subscription at drinkag1.com/bigthing. That's drinkag1.com/bigthing. Check it out. Let me tell you guys about Nutrafol. I'm going to tell you guys about Nutrafol. I'm very excited to tell you about Nutrafol. I've told you about Nutrafol many times over, and I've gotten people, and Nutrafol even said, like, we're back because the audience is listening, and they're checking it out, and it's working. Because if you didn't know, did you know that 80% of men are going to experience hair thinning in their lifetime? Because it's normal. It doesn't have to be your fate. You can get ahead of it with Nutrafol. What is it? Well, it's a clinically tested hair growth supplement for men. A lot of times you blame genetics, but there are multiple things at play when it comes to hair thinning. So what is Nutrafol? It is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement brand with over 1 million people seeing thicker, stronger, faster growing hair with less shedding. You can take the first step to visibly thicker, healthier hair. And for a limited time, Nutrafol is going to offer our listeners $10 off your first month subscription and free shipping. When you go to Nutrafol.com/men, you got to enter that promo code BIGTHING. You can find out why over 4,500 healthcare professionals and hairstylists recommend Nutrafol for healthier hair. Nutrafol.com/men. Nutrafol.com/men. You got to enter that code BIGTHING. Nutrafol.com/men. Promo code BIGTHING. Very excited to have them on board. All right. So thank you to our sponsors, obviously. As I say, it is so helpful that when you guys support this show, and if you're able to and you have the means, get something for yourself. It really does help. And for people who actually understand it and realize that this show is free and that this is how we are able to have Riley on this show, continue to bring you these shows, to keep talking about it, it's because of our wonderful sponsors. So if you're one of the smart people who get it, get yourself something too. If you can, you can't. But I'm saying if you understand and you're not one of those people going, why do you have sponsors in this show? Because we get sponsors that we care about, that we want you to get, so we can continue to do the show. So if you want to be one of those people, get out of here. You come in, it goes away. So let's keep going. Let's keep moving on. And sticking with what we were just talking about, I want to bring up Lou Elizondo here. How about this? All right, so this tweet, again, comes from Mike Colangelo, who does a great breakdown of a lot of the stuff that's going on in the world of UAP news. Recommend him, UFO Joe, definitely Skyfire News. They'll break down this stuff. Lou Elizondo's ATIP claims are supported by a new FOIA release. Now, this is the redacted line in the email is crucial to the ATIP story as it directly references ATIP in a manner that supports Elizondo's claims of some level of involvement in the effort. Now, the quote is, though the Pentagon's decision to redact the line does come as a surprise since the line is not deliberative in nature, nor does it quite fit in the other areas B5 would exempt, the selective redaction by the government raises question about the transparency behind what ATIP was and was not. Greetings, Neil. Per SECDEF's front office guidance to you and me, I took the liberty of drafting a memo at the unclassified level that helps you better assume the new responsibilities for ATIP. At your convenience, please review. It's very short on purpose, and let me know if you want me to put more meat on it. Brennan, same with you, please. No pride in authorship. Just want to make sure we answer the mail from the front office. Standing by. Okay, so this is the other side of it. Greeting per SCCF's front office guidance to you and me at the delivery of drafting a memo at the unclassified level that blank at your convenience. Please review. It's very short on purpose and let me know if you want to put more meat on it. Same with you. No pride and da-da-da-da-da. Standing by. So this is with the actual names, the unclassified side of it. Okay, so that also, this report comes from John Greenwald again with FOIA, the new FOIA release. Highlights redactions and the key ATIP correspondence, and he writes, what is the Pentagon hiding? To which he is basically, putting that inside the black vault, which he runs. And I think what's again, as we said before with Green Street, is like Greenwald also gets a lot of crap a lot of times too, because he's like, well, that guy is just trying to disprove everything, because he was the one that posted that thing when Grush came, and he just showed the documents that he had, presented it, said, here you go. And then he had another one last week that I think did the opposite, that it was more so like, oh, wait a minute, this one says that I don't know, I think it was the Kona Blue. I can't remember what it was, but it was something where it's just kind of like showing the balance on it. And this is another one. It says like, no, it looks like ATIP is actually was a thing, and Lou is who he said he was. Because there's tons of people out there that say, no, Lou's making this up. Lou never had this position. This seems to validate exactly what Lou was saying. I don't know. What do you think?
I mean, this would sure seem like he had his hands in something over with ATIP. I mean, he's signing off with it. Look, it's another, for me, classic case of like, there's so much different disinformation and so much of like, well, I didn't do this. Well, I didn't. Here's another thing. Here's another. And then things present themselves. We always have to just kind of follow the breadcrumbs. I keep saying breadcrumbs, but there's so much new information that keeps coming out that makes you go, I don't know. But Luis Elizondo seems to always have his hands in something. ATIP, this supports that, in my opinion. We have the information here, and he's standing by. He ends it with. That's interesting to me.
Yeah, and it's like, and it is one of the, I guess the question could be like, well, this is an email that Lou sent. How do you know he just didn't send it to and say, okay, look, this, and they wrote back, what do you, because when it was written, seems to validate all of it. But you're going to have those people that say that. It just seems
could
like
be made up too, and in Photoshop.
It doesn't,
right?
But it doesn't seem like that. It seems like this is, but it's not. It's not made up of Photoshop because of the FOIA document that was declassified, and he got access to it. So it definitely is a legit document. But the question is like, where it does seem like more with what just happened with the Green Street interview with Kirkpatrick, and I think there's more to it now. Even the naysayers are like, well, wait a minute. It looks like the DOD, it looks like AARO are trying to hold things back a bit because they're not being totally transparent. And even the naysayers, the ones who've been on their side, are going, all right, stop talking about this. AARO already said no. They're going, wait a minute. Hold on. You said this, but we just found out that that's not true. Or you said that, but this guy said, yeah, and wait, he's got a picture. That's not true. Why are you lying to us? We're on your side. And so the more that they do that, the more they're going to open up the idea of, well, guys, we can't put our butts on the line for you here if every time we say, no, look what AARO says, and then you go, oops, just kidding, here's our pants down again.
Yeah.
I don't know.
It's so hard to what is that quote you've said so many times? Like, they're better at this.
That's George Knapp. Yeah, George Knapp said they're better at their job than we are at ours. But I mean, right now that might not be the case.
Maybe not. I mean, there is so much out there now.
Yeah.
It's so hard to follow along. And then you get everybody that's like, this community has seemed to have grown so much bigger within the past 6 months. That there's so much online now that you could just, I mean, if you're not just looking at some footage and having some, that's one thing, right? The I saw this, and they post a shaky video or whatever.
Right.
This is the meat and potatoes of what we're talking about, and there's a lot.
There's a lot.
Now there's so much. Now we have Kirkpatrick with a picture, right? That's one thing. Now we have this. Now we have people that will come out and say, no, it's not because of this. Then you have the debunkers that want to go debunk it immediately, and the voices that are ringing everywhere from Twitter or X or whatever you want to call it. It is so hard to get to the truth.
It's true. Well,
we're looking for somebody. That's why Grush, I think, jumped in front of everybody and became a superstar within this community so fast is because it's my previous point, because of his clearances, because of where he came from. That stuff you could go, what?
Well, he threw a monkey wrench on the whole thing, and because he accelerated a fire. Remember what Bassett told us is that Schumer and those guys had this steady approach of doing what they were going to be doing with their bill and all that, and continuing what Harry Reid wanted to do, and then once Grush came, they weren't expecting Grush, and then once Grush came out of nowhere, that just accelerated everything. And speaking of Grush, there was this happened while we were on the air here, and Skyfire News had this, and let me read this. All right, we covered Jason Sands, and people still don't know what to make of Jason Sands, except the fact that he was, by a lot of different people, confirmed that he said who he said he was, as far as where he worked and all these different things. It wasn't like he was just some guy that goes, oh, yeah, I happen to work with that guy. And they're like, and they said, no, who's that guy? I've never seen that guy before in my life. People know who he was. It was just a matter of what he did and his preference in general of how he decided to come out and make his voice known on Twitter Spaces instead of doing an interview at News Nation and all that. It just rubbed people, I guess, the wrong way of going. It takes away the legitimacy out of it a little bit, right? So
sure,
this is something. This guy, Arthur Preston, comes out and he says, I have a theory that Jason Sands was one of the 40 witnesses that Grush interviewed, and that all the talk about something big happening first half of 2024 was going to be in reference to Jason going public. But the Twitter space was not planned, and Jason was a bit too open about some of his more out there experiences for the inner circle's liking, so they decided to publicly snub him, to which Jason Sands writes back, you are correct.
Oh.
Jason Sands responds to that and says, you are correct. So let's break that down a bit. Grush interviews this guy. Makes sense that he would be if he's the guy he says he was when Grush was working there, right?
Okay.
James Fox interviews the guy. James Fox says, big news coming out in 2024. Jeremy Corbell says it. Jeremy Corbell has had conversations with this guy. So he was one of the guys that said big things coming in January 2024. So the reference to Jason going public as another whistleblower and being able to do exactly what you just said, Riley, being able to say like, hey, well, that guy worked where he said he did. And because, look, I'll tell you right now that if Jason Sands doesn't do the Twitter space and you never hear about him until tomorrow on Ross Coldheart in another interview, but they ease up to what he knows, you and I and everybody else in this space is covering it a lot differently.
Yeah, it makes me think. Let me ask you something. If Grush came out on Twitter Spaces instead of in front of the Senate hearings, wouldn't we be talking about this differently?
Of course. 100%. 100%.
That's what this...
It was an incredibly miscalculated, bad move to do it on Twitter Spaces. It was
if we have more whistleblowers, if we have more leaks or whatever, we have more whistleblowers.
Yeah.
There is absolutely, you need to be credible.
Well,
and there is a place for that. I think that is more credible for us to accept because you have more people like the Senate hearings where our elected officials are there in the room listening to this, and we can point to them, we can call them, we can somewhat get behind them and say, wait a minute, but this guy, I mean, there's legitimacy in it.
Yeah, it's more so like just wait and talk to somebody that maybe is getting frustrated. I don't know, but as it says here, that, so the Twitter space was not planned. He jumps on, he goes, yeah, I'll talk about it. Why not? And Jason talked about a lot of different things, wild claims, and some out there experiences. And the inner circle, people who are, whether it's, and I don't know if they had anything to do with it. I'm just bringing up, let's say it's a Lou Elizondo or Gary Nolan or whoever. Are listening to him going, wait a minute, man, you're talking about these things yet that we're not, like, it's a slow burn here, and you're just dumping everything right now on Twitter Spaces. You're gonna put a big a wash on the fire. So they decided to publicly snub him. Now, if you look at the publicly snub, you could look at bring up a Jeremy Corbell who said or even Jesse Michaels, who was like, talked to him and decided there's a reason why I didn't do my thing. Yeah. And there's a reason why I didn't. Jeremy Corbell said there's a reason why we didn't like. It seemed like a lot. Ross Coldhart, no interview with Ross Coldhart. So it seems like that was just a really bad move. And you and I have been covering inside of the pop culture space now for way over a decade, maybe even 2 at this point. But when you have someone, and let's say someone new on the scene in movies and televisions promoting their projects, right? They have publicists. They have people who say, okay, let's go on that show to talk about this. Let's go on that thing. Let's talk about this. Because if you see they don't start doing, well, why don't you go on, you want to promote your big thing you're doing? Why don't you go on Facebook Live? Or maybe Facebook Live is actually depends on the show. But I mean, I guess like somebody's doing a thing on MySpace. Still, they're doing a little thing on their private MySpace or a blog, a little blog, whatever it might be. And I know it's Twitter's Twitter, but it's not. But it wasn't even the Twitter Spaces, and nothing against the person who was interviewing them, but it was someone in the community itself. But it wasn't like a big, huge outlet to where it's like, it should have been a thing. It should have been a thing, and it takes the validity off of it for sure.
Yeah, well, I also liken it to, somebody on Twitter or X, whatever you want to call it, says David Cornsweet is going to be Superman, right? And they put that out there on Twitter, and you're like, who the hell is this guy? And then the Hollywood Reporter goes out there and says David Cornsweet is Superman. It's
right.
Like, there is legitimacy behind some of these. We were in the scoop game for a little bit back in the schmoes days, right? And, there were people they're like, who the hell are these guys? We came out of left field. Who the hell is this guy? Right? When you have somebody from Variety or these well-known publications that come out with it, it's totally different. I think we're talking about that. I mean, you have David Grush in front of the Senate hearings as the Hollywood Reporter, and you have Twitter Spaces with Sands, and that's a different story because nobody was around to kind of back that up. And it sounds like, of course, they snubbed him because there was some outlandish claims in there, and I think it takes away some of the legitimacy that we're trying to get to because blew your load too fast. Is that a saying?
Yeah, but what the other problem is though too is the fact that let's say all those wild claims are true, lead to it. Wait, to see how long it takes before you get to the public hearing, and if you do it, you want to say that stuff under oath. When someone asks you, go for it. You're under public oath at this point, and you're in the middle of this thing, and then that's on you. If you want to be a public oath, and this is the real deal, that's where you say it. Lead to it, and like the same thing, like or wait till you get like the big interview, and like to the person who got the Twitter Space, to them, that's a big deal. Hey, I got Jason Sands on my Twitter Space because the people that were in there, like Leslie Kane was listening. People were listening. It's like, wait, is he's going? What's he gonna? He's not gonna. This is the guy that Fox has in his interview in his new doc. This is the guy that that Grush talked to, and he's talking on Twitter Space. What's he gonna say? He's not gonna say anything. Do you hear what he's saying right now? Do you hear? No. What's he doing? You'd be like, how many times? Even when we did a game show called the Schmodown, and people would do like little interviews. And they'd be doing, you're like, no, what are you saying? Stop saying that. Stop it. There's some people, you don't do that. Not now. What are you doing? And that's what seems like what happened with Sands. And so they're like, okay, we got so many other people. That's another reason why maybe they switch up because as we talked about, Luna's talking about doing the USO hearings more so now. And maybe that's where they're going to focus more on like a Gallaudet. I don't know. But yeah.
We were talking about the Soul Foundation. We were talking about a lot of the different things that are out there and the plan for disclosing stuff. You can start saying UFOs are real, what's up there because of X, Y, and Z. When you go, UFOs are real, and there was a man that came out of the craft with weird shaped head and ears, and there's leaps, there's disclosure, there's a rollout plan, right? That's kind of what we're talking about is like where you can't just throw it out there that it's like there's an intergalactic race of beings at war with the humans and they live in the reptile people and V was correct. It's like a lot for the human, for the your wife, my wife.
Right.
That's a lot to take in all at once. But if you say those flying saucers that we have footage of from the radar, the Tic Tac video.
But even if he's on Twitter Spaces, Riley, and he's going, okay, so I am one of the guys that Grush talked to. I am one of the guys that worked the program. I have done this. I have done that. I have information that I think will be very credible to the ongoing investigation to prove that that. I will tell you that I have heard a lot of Grush's claims. I can validate all of them. I can say this. There's only so much I'm going to say here because there's places that I think that there's more time for it. I will tell you that I believe that the information that I have will change perceptions of what people think. I have things that I could say that I feel that might change your perception on the way that you see things. Things that I know, in fact, are true. Things that I have witnessed, things that I have seen, things that I have experienced, and I look forward to talking to them, hopefully in front of a committee, in front of the Senate, in front of Congress, in front of all these people. And if not, I would love to have an interview with, say, a Ross Coulthart. I look forward to getting my word out there, and that's all I can say for today. And then get out.
Yeah.
That's it.
That's a good rollout plan right there.
That's it.
And I'm wondering even too, like the differences between what Twitter or X is now versus what it was back then, because there is a definite shift in what Twitter has become, in my opinion. That's just by me using it and what I see. There's a lot more. I mean, I'm in my feed now, and it's very different looking than it was in 2017, 2018. And that's just, however you feel about it. But I think there is a right place for things especially to get stuff like this out there. And Grush did it in a way that was like very, very credible. It was in front of the Senate. It was with corroborating witnesses. It was people that we trust and elect. This is a little, you make a great kind of example of what could have been. I have information. I'm going to say this. This is real. This is confirmed. What Grush said is this, that, but I have more to say. And now I need to start getting it out there.
Right.
And go and do the circuit.
Yeah, because if you would have teased a little more without those claims, and you tease it at the end saying, I'd love to be able to get in front of a Ross Coulthart or whoever it might be. And then hey, Ross, interview this guy. You talk to this guy. He's got more to say. He wants to do it with you, whatever it might be, whether it's a News Nation or whoever. But it's like by doing all those wild claims right off the bat, to me, it just wasn't the move. And I have to be honest, I can understand why, let's say, the inner circle is just like, we can't right now. We can't because he's lost validity on it. And until like maybe when we bring him in front of, and if we bring him as one of the witnesses, and if he's going to testify in front of Congress, it's like, and he's going to say all these things, we get to a point, then maybe, but he can't be the guy that's going to change everything, right? But speaking of Grush, and speaking of, remember we talked about the salt. We said, well, where is he? Where's Grush? What happened? And then the salt thing happened, and then they were like, nope, not going to do it anymore, as scheduling and all that. And we're like, well, okay, we still haven't really heard where he's going to be, what's going to happen. But there is some big news that dropped yesterday, and that we do have a replacement. And speaking of whistleblowers, and speaking of the fact that someone that could eventually testify if there is another public hearing, and that we were hoping would be, is Carl Nell. Well, Carl Nell is going to be speaking at the SALT conference for a good 20 minutes. Looks like he's taking the Grush spot. But all right, Skyfire News reports Carl Nell to speak at the SALT conference with a presentation titled Earth and Non-Human Intelligence. What do you think he will say? This was reported that he's going to replace David Grush. So there it is. And that's going to be this month. So this goes back to what you were talking about earlier, Riley, right? Is that, and this is there's another story that if we get to it or we don't get to it, I'll just bring it up briefly, is that I talked about on Down to Earth on the news, on the channel itself. There was a story that Elon Musk was asked many times over, are there UFOs or aliens? He said, I've never seen aliens. I've never seen this. He's laughed it off. I've never seen. We've looked many times over in satellite with SpaceX, never seen anything. To which people said, right. Yeah, well, if you have a contract with the government, and they go, one of the things is don't say anything. Every time you're out there, you say, don't worry, I won't say anything. And he hasn't, right? That's a possibility too. Or it's possible he's just telling the truth and you didn't see anything. Well, Ross Coulthart had said at one point, I think it was on News Nation the other day, and I have that clip, but I just want to bring this up for a reason. He says, okay, I have heard that I've been told that Elon Musk was actually sworn in to UFO kind of program and knows a lot about it, right? And so the reason I bring this up is the same thing I say, like when anybody, whether it's a Carl Nell, Nolan, whoever's speaking, you're going to be listening and you're going to go, I can't see a picture of the guy sitting in the meeting, so I can't tell what's a lie and what's true. And I believe you, Carl Nell, when you're talking. Ross Coulthart, I believe that you heard something about Elon Musk, that he's part of it, but I can't just believe you because you said it. I can't just say, well, Ross Coulthart said that Elon Musk is part of this alien program, so that's it. Elon, I'm sorry. You're lying. I happen to think that Elon is full of it, but I can't just necessarily believe because Ross Coulthart said, well, I heard, so I know he got sworn into a program. Do I think it's potentially true? Sure, but I can't believe it right off the bat in the same way that Carl Nell's going to say some great stuff, and I'm probably going to want to believe all of it. Mm-hmm. But are you going to show something? Are you going to say, hey, I'm going, or are you going to tell me at the end of it, I'm testifying or whatever it might be? Or is it just going to be something that he's saying? I'm like, how could this not be legit? How could this, like, holy crap, this guy knows so much. I really feel that way about him, but it's like, I'm like everybody else. I'm just tired of hearing like, oh, this sounds so credible. This sounds so believable, but like, where the fuck is it? Like that's where I'm at, and that's what I feel like I'm going to feel like at the end of this presentation because Carl Nell is believable.
Well, I wish we had Grush.
Well, I don't know, dude. I don't know. I think Carl Nell knows more than Grush does.
Does he? I mean, I don't know enough about this guy.
Yeah, I think he does. And but the difference is, like you said before, Grush was in front of Congress before. Grush has been, Grush, but Grush did a full-on interview about all this stuff too. And this guy knows a lot. The question is how much more. So this is why people are losing their minds over this. Like will he be the next guy to go in and, like, I feel like if he goes in front of a public hearing, he's going to blow the roof off the place.
That'd be great. But this isn't that public hearing kind of thing.
No, it's not. It's just just the conference.
Yeah.
It's just, and they sell tickets and shit to it. But it's like, but there will be stuff that comes out of it, and there will be information that comes out when he's talking that will, whether it's UFO Joe, Skyfire News, Michelangelo, us, whoever, people are going to cover it, post clips about it. It's going to be all over the place. And they'll be like, but is it going to lead anything, or does it just get people like us fired up and going, yeah, okay, great, that's amazing. It's crazy. Because that's what's going to happen. He's going to say some things where, like, whoa, he just said this, and this. But does it lead to, like, this is the difference of the opening story of what we talked about. And you said it really well. Is that opening story was this guy who used to run AARO says he wasn't at that meeting. This guy says that he was. And, well, I don't know who to believe is what Green Street says. Well, and then the one guy goes, okay, fine, you don't know who to believe. Here's a picture. He was at the meeting. And now you believe that guy.
Yeah.
That's what you need. It's like, okay, look, I worked on this thing. No, you didn't. Yes, I did. I worked in this program. No, you didn't. Well, here's an email. Okay, that's a little bit more believable. Here's me doing this. Here's a picture of us doing that. All right, a little bit, way more believable. Yep. All right, I worked at this reverse engineering program. No, you didn't. Here's me sitting in the ship smoking a cigar with an alien. Okay, I believe you.
What can I hang my hat on? That picture.
Right.
Him smoking a cigar with Paul, the alien.
Right.
That I can hang my hat on.
And even that, though, we've talked about it, the CGI, but like a validated, like a picture that you go, because now, I mean, shoot, man, did you see that Chat GPT presentation that they just did yesterday?
No, I missed it. What I missed?
So this thing that they're doing now, it's like you now can, like, video, and you can say, hey, blah, 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 blah. You see what I'm doing right now? And it responds right away. Yeah, you're sitting in your office with a blue wall in the background. Looks like you're shooting a video with your podcast. How's it going? Like the AI will talk to you that way. And then there's another part of the program that's like, if I go to Germany and I don't know a damn thing anyone's saying, and I'm like, hey, talking to this, and they say, by the way, I'm German. Yeah, so 9, and not making fun of Germans. I am German. So German Italian. So anyway, if I'm there and I'm having a conversation with them, and they're going, I don't know what they're saying, and they're going back and forth, it just right into the thing, just translates it, and I go right back to it, and it's like it's insane. It's going to take over it's Skynet. But
the future is here.
It is. But the stuff that can be manipulated, the things that can, overall the proof. So it's got to be concrete proof. And there's got to be some kind of, it does seem though that the AARO thing, which was so kind of, it seemed like a big punch in the stomach, as George Knapp said, that punch wasn't it wasn't a 10 count. It was more like a 5 count after that picture.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, you're saying we live in this world now. The Chat GPTs, the AI, it's going to make this conversation harder until we get that proof that is just what's the word I'm looking for? I mean, just
unprecedented.
Unprecedented, sure. But just that, I mean, we need that proof, and we need those people to step forward, either the whistleblowers or
indisputable. Is that what you're looking for? Indisputable.
Thank you. Indisputable proof is what we need. We've been saying. I mean, we go back to the early days. I go back to the early days. We started talking about when are we going to really get this, and when are people going to believe? It's like we need that, ID4, that ship hovering over a major city where everybody just goes, there it is. Contact is here. It's hard to do now. And so the more credible witnesses we have, the more credible whistleblowers, full disclosure, all that, yada.
Here's my prediction. My prediction is this, because we're going to be building up to these public hearings and all that stuff too.
Yeah.
We are not, the United States are not at a place that we were years ago. As it was still biggest superpower and all that too. But like, whether you look at everything what China's doing and everything in the world with Russia, and I mean, we will not be the first country to disclose. As much as we think for 80, 90 years that we would be the ones, we won't be. It's going to be
I agree with you.
The catastrophic disclosure will come, and it'll be another country saying, we beat you to the space race this time, because all the years of corruption, all the years of trying to hide it, all the years and us thinking, we're going to play by your rules. They're going to disclose it. It's going to come from another country, and then the states will go, oh yeah, well look what we have, and then it'll still have merit. It'll still say, because we'll have a lot of information, but we will not be the first country to disclose.
I couldn't agree with you more.
Yeah.
And there's a lot that goes, that's not just a kind of a black and white statement. I feel there's a lot of gray to that, but I could point to a million things right now. You brought it up, like, as far as like following the rules, we can't do this, trying to hide things, having a secret that is the most important thing in the world. I've mentioned it before. One of my favorite things that the Corbell and Knapp said on their podcast was like, when there is a secret that you have, it's like currency.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that part of it. There's also the part of, we live in, like, it's a circus in the news. I feel like, when it comes to our politics, it's a circus when it comes to social media. I don't see a lot. I mean, of course, I'm not a part of these countries, but that's something you say, Kristian, just rings so true to me with that, is that it'll come out from China, that they go, here it is. I mean, it's like we're all over here following, like, it's either, I make that joke all the time, it's either the poor sap that's standing in the middle of a tornado, and that's the coverage they do, or we're just 24 hours watching. Okay, Trump just got out of his car. Okay, he just made a right. Okay, he's walking into the courthouse. We have breaking news. He's walking into the courthouse. This is all going on, and China over here just goes, we have it. Right, here's a UFO. Well, I mean, I just feel like that is inevitable.
And here's the other follow-up to that, is that if it does come out that it's another country, China, Russia, shoot, stuff that came back from Italy in years past,
right?
Whatever it might be, something. there's all this prep that the Vatican is doing recently about disclosure, not disclosure, but prepping for how to deal with other entities and all these other things. And it's this long report that I didn't go into today.
That's such a huge part of it.
Yeah. And so whoever it might be, as I said that up top, it's not like, it's more so of a looking at the people in charge of the government going, you idiots blew it, right? Mm-hmm. Not me going, well, we as a country lost out. It's like whoever does it, it's like, I believe, depending on what is said and whatever it is that is revealed, it should be, and it won't be because countries are always country first. It should be you did this for humanity. You did this for the human race in general, and you said that's what it should be presented on. And even if it's not sincere, it should be presented that way. It should be presented like, hey, the human race needs to know because this is the information that we have and that we've known for years, and we've kept it for this long because of A, B, and C, and we feel we should be the first country to do this. That's the way it should be presented because it's a pat on the back type thing anyway, but it's also being presented in a way that it's like, this is what it authentically should be, is that, hey, you wanted answers for so long, here it is. We don't necessarily, and maybe whatever country it is doesn't follow the same type, so it has a different type of view on religion and different. It doesn't have that same kind of protection over certain, because there's a lot of people inside this you think that it's rumored or speculated rather that one of the reasons that disclosures doesn't happen in this country is because of the threat to what people see religion and how we are on this world. Yeah, worldview and how that can be shattered, right? Maybe there's another country that doesn't see that worldview and doesn't see that type of thing and doesn't have that kind of thing and has information, and maybe they just for so long have felt like, well, those are the bigger dogs, and well, the hell with it. Yeah. Release it, Murray. We've been sitting on it forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
I mean, God, it opens up a whole nother conversation that's probably a different podcast altogether. Yeah. But, I think in general, I think a lot of Americans maybe don't have a lot of faith in their government.
Right.
I don't. It's because there's a lot of nonsense going on, and I wish I could see, the parties working together, but it seems like instead it's about tearing everybody down, and you have factions of this, like the Democrats, Republicans, whatever you want to say. I don't want to get into it too much, but that's what I'm talking about. It feels like we can't get anything done, let alone disclosure, let alone something that's for the good of humanity.
Yeah, I mean, look,
and maybe it needs to be another country. Sweden comes out of left field.
Who knows? Who knows what it is?
I don't know.
And it's Borat. Here you go.
Kazakhstan. We have it here. Who knows who it is? I think you brought up such a great point that it makes me wonder. What are the different countries sitting on? Are they watching us and with these hearings, with these things that could or could not happen? If they ever go on UAP Twitter and just look at it and go, oh, shit. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, look, you even look at some of the hearings that Mexico had, right? And so the things that they were doing, but Mexico is pretty in cahoots with the U.S. government as well too. So I don't know, man. It's like I just feel that eventually some leader from another country will say, "Yeah, we're not listening to these guys anymore." Like they can tell us, and I don't care how many they have. I don't care what weapons they have. I know that we have this. We've done this for so long. We have this information. It'll put our country in. We will be the country that says we prove to you guys that either we know exactly what this is and it happens to be this, or if it is indeed, we're not alone. Whoever it does, whoever that might be, whether it's United States, China, Russia, Sweden, whoever it might be, they're going to be. That will be the country that is remembered forever. And these other things. Imagine a world again, and I'm not telling you what to believe or not to believe inside of this thing. Like I'm just giving you a particular scenario of, let's say that indeed this stuff is NHI, right? Let's say indeed that it is, and it's not light years away, and it is indeed what Riley and I have always kind of imagined, whether it's bending space-time and the anti-gravity and all that stuff. Just imagine that it is indeed that, and that is confirmed. And the idea of, we know for a fact, whoever the country is that says, we know for a fact that it has been able to do this. We've communicated with these things. We know how long they've been here. We know that what this does. We know that they have the ability to do this. This is how we got here, and all these information. Any historical things that came before us, right? Because I've seen people comment before, people just go on their daily lives like they always do. I don't know about this one. I don't know about that. Because it's just like, you start thinking about these little insignificant things that happened in the past. I don't know if it makes as much of a difference anymore, especially if you know, like, the answers of, they're like, well, we also know what comes next. That's the scary thing. Because people are like, oh, yeah, is that what happens? There's no consequences? I'm going to take my pants off and run down the street. You know what I mean? It's like, so there's so much that comes to it. There comes a lot with it. It's not just as easy going, all right, make the announcement.
Yeah, it's really hard to wrap your head around, but it's humanity, what comes after,
right.
All of these questions. I mean, you would think, I think that question, not the maybe what comes after, but this secret, I think we read something here that the aliens disclosure could come by 2030. Okay, that's 6 years.
Yeah, and that's what Nell said.
Right?
Right.
So that, I believe it will happen. I keep thinking of what you just said. It could happen from somewhere else. We don't know, but I think it ultimately will happen. There is so much smoke. Where's the fire? I think it's coming. I just don't know how. I mean, like the disinformation campaigns, the people guarding the secrets, these things, what it could mean to everything. I mean, if you follow Forbes' Twitter now, I mean, he's talking about, and we did our interview with him. He believes what he believes, whether you believe it or not, but he is talking about some serious shit.
Yeah, and that's picking up more steam too. He's getting a lot more people are picking that up now too.
Well, you look at it, and I think that there is a theme and a through line with that you can correlate with UAP disclosure and like free energy.
Right.
You know, warp drives and whatnot. And that's people guarding it with their lives because of how it will change everything we've known. Everything.
So look, there's so much. Like I said, we could have went 2 hours on just the first story, and we missed. There's a couple stories that we were going to get to that we weren't able to get to today because we just ran out of time. But there's so much here, guys, that we covered on today's show. From the Sean Kirpatrick stuff to Carl Nell speaking to Lou Elizondo, like all that stuff, whatever it is that we covered today, make sure you guys put your comments in there. Let your voices be known. And as always, subscribe to the channel. Mark Riley, my friend, where can I find you?
Find me on the internet at O'Reilly Around, REILLY Around. See you there.
All right. Remember, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, anywhere podcasts are found. Check us out on the Down to Earth podcast feed. Thank you again to our wonderful sponsors. You can find all the links in the description, and you help out the show tremendously when you do so. So thanks again to Mark Riley. Thank you to you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.